we're good to go. Thanks, Len. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order this morning. Nice to see everyone here. I'm going to just go over kind of who's here in the right here in person. Len Thornton's here, Nancy Ferry, Jill Roaring, Steve Smith, Kate Orr, Mary, David Licata, Jackie Kenny. On Zoom, we have Sylvia, Beth, Eric, Mark Campos, of course, Margot Sue Bittner, David Jones, and Mike Licata. Now, our inspiration this morning is from Mr. Jones, David Jones. Do you have an inspiration for us?
Yes, and good morning, fellow Toastmasters. My inspiration comes from Dr. Wayne Dyer, Everyday Wisdom. And I have about 200 choices, but I went with this one. Everything you are against can be restated in a way that puts you in support of something. Instead of being against war, be for peace. Instead of being against poverty, be for prosperity. Instead of joining a war of drugs, be for purity in our youth. Your words matter. Thank you much.
Very profound. Thank you very much. And we will go to our pledge this morning. Please rise, pick up your hands. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any announcements from the floor this morning? Ah, there we go, Mr. Licata.
Yeah, fine time, and in 17 contributed, we came in third.
Awesome. Yeah, David was thanking everyone for going to Casablanca, and they got third place in the trivia contest. Congratulations.
Go team. There were 7 Toastmasters.
7 Toastmasters there? That's a good showing. Excellent. Well, this morning we have one of our favorite Toastmasters, really.
Mike.
Yep.
I just want to let people know I couldn't
sorry.
make it I couldn't make it this morning, but I did buy more coffee and coffee creamers. So 2 weeks from now, when we meet again, I'll make sure I bring those.
Perfect. Must have coffee. With that, I'm very curious how this meeting will go today, talking about retirement. And, you know, it's getting close to that time, but I'm going to go kicking and screaming. So I'm going to hand it over to Mark Campos, and we're going to hear just what it is all about retirement. Mr. Campos, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you, Mike. And I have to tell you, you're not the only one who's curious how this will go today. I am as well. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. Let's get some housekeeping out of the way first, shall we? I know I only have 2 speakers today. Does anyone have a hip pocket speech? All right, I suspected that would be the case. I also lost an evaluator, so I would ask Les Robinson. Les, you were evaluator number 3. Can I move you up to evaluator number 1 in Anne Marie's place? You
yes.
will evaluate Beth Banks.
Cool.
Thank you very much. Her project information is on the web. If you could take a quick peek at it, I would appreciate it. I'd also ask our table topics master, Kate, to maybe go a little bit longer, just so we fill up some time and make sure that everyone has an opportunity to speak this morning. All right, with that, good morning once again. Retirement. I think retirement is something that almost all of us think about at some point or dream about. In my case, I think about it way too much. And it's not a sign of being dissatisfied necessarily. It's just the fact that I'm coming up on 35 years in my job in January, spent a lot of time here, and both my wife and I work for the same company, and we've worked very hard to put ourselves in a position to retire young, and we'll hopefully put that plan into place. In my wife's case, she can't stand her job. She will retire on the very first day that she is eligible, which happens to be October 3rd, 2024. So somewhat arbitrarily, that's always been my target date, that maybe we'll just walk out hand in hand and head off into retirement, nice sunset and whatnot. But in my case, I'm not necessarily tied so much to that date, but I know it's coming up relatively soon. And that has me wondering, as I look ahead, what will it be like? It's easy to think about it. It's easy to dream about it. Oh, when we're retired, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll go here, we'll go there. But the reality is we don't really know. I've heard of people that have had a hard time adapting to a retired lifestyle. A very good friend of mine retired back in 2009, and he told me stories about pacing his driveway for a number of days and weeks because he just wasn't sure what to do with himself. And especially coming from a job somewhat similar to mine, where you're dealing with fire drills all day long, he had a hard time settling down and relaxing and enjoying things because he was so conditioned to wait for the next crisis to solve. Other people I know are deathly afraid that they won't have enough to keep them occupied. So many of them keep extending their careers because they're worried that they'll be bored. But I do have some stats I will share now and I'll share throughout the meeting. At this point, and these are 2023 stats, the average age of retirement is 64.7 for men and 62.1 for women. Now, this has increased over time. In 1991, the average age was 57. I would say we are not going in the right direction here, fellow Toastmasters. And the current US life expectancy is up to 79.1 years, which is 16% higher than it was in 1950. That means we're living longer, which means we also need more money to survive in retirement. That's another problem we'll talk about. Almost half of Americans between the ages of 60 and 75 say they plan to work part-time in retirement. I think that's okay if that's just to keep busy. It's a problem. And here's the most shocking statistic of all. 1 in 12 Americans believe they'll never retire. Again, maybe some people just love to work, but that's a pretty alarming statistic. So fellow Toastmasters, I want to hear from you today. As you have an opportunity to speak, if you're retired, share with us what it's like. Tell us what that adaptation was like for you. If you're not retired, share a little bit about your hopes and dreams or when you intend to retire. And with that, I'd like to start introducing our job holders this morning. Our WAG master this morning is Tracy Farrell. Tracy.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. And I have to point out, I'm not afraid to retire. Right now, I think I have too many things to do, and I don't have enough time to actually go to work. However, our word for the day is fulfilled, meaning satisfied or happy because of a fully developing one's abilities or character. So the word of the day is fulfilled. Please use it in table topics especially. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Tracy. Would you also care to describe your additional roles as a master and grammarian as well?
Thank you. I'm sorry. I forgot about those. So I'm also going to be counting your ahs, ums, and I'm also going to be listening to the use of the English language, and I'll be reporting back at the end of the meeting. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tracy. Our quote master this morning is Michael Licata. Michael, do you have a quote for us?
Good morning, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. I think that when it comes to retirement, I think I'm one of those 12 people that doesn't think they're ever going to retire. But my advice for people is just to find a nice side hustle job that you can make a little bit extra money. And it's important to start now if you need to. So, with that, my quotes this morning first by one of our favorite scribes, Unknown. You have to put off being young until you can retire. Age is an issue of the mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. And that comes from Mark Twain. And my last one this morning is retirement. That's when you turn home from work one day and say, "Hi, honey, I'm home forever." And that comes from Jean Perret, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Michael. Our jester this morning is Nancy Rose. Is Nancy in the room?
Nancy is in the room.
All right, Nancy, do you have a jest for us?
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Toastmasters. I do have gestures. I made it. It's a little foggy this morning, but I like to come. I come from about a half hour away, but I like to come and have breakfast with Dave Licata, and that's no joke. So anyway, my husband and I have started aggressively planning for our retirement. And what that I mean is we buy lottery tickets 3 to 5 times a week. You're retired. Goodbye pension and hello tension. I don't know. I kind of reverse it because I hear a lot of people sometimes get a little stressed. They don't know what to do with themselves, but I know I will. And I have a knock, 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 knock. Little old lady. I didn't know y'all could yodel. Knock, knock. Let us all retire happily together. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Our timer this morning is Sylvia Baptiste. Sylvia.
Morning, everyone. Today I'll be timing table topics, which is 1 to 2 minutes with a 15-second buffer. And I'm going to show you my little screens here. So we have the green, yellow, red. And our speakers, if I'm not told differently, will be 5 to 7 minutes with a 30-second buffer. And evaluators 2 to 3 with another 30-second buffer. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. Our quiz master this morning is Dr. Gerald Stevens. Dr. Stevens.
Good morning, Mr. Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters. I hope to have a fulfilling retirement one day, 8 years, believe it or not, from now. 62 is the hope. My wife is no longer working, she likes to say, so she wants to have me join her and right away. However, I do feel that I may feel like someone Mark mentioned, and then be worried about not being able to have enough to do. I don't know if that's really realistic because I always seem to have way too much to do. But I do worry about that. But we will see how the journey goes. My job today is, from this point on, to list items to test your listening skills that people mention in the meeting. So be aware. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Dr. Stevens. Fellow Toastmasters, I was admittedly patting myself on the back that I so deftly filled my gaps and dealt with housekeeping right off the top. However, I neglected to make sure I have a general evaluator. Is Thomas Heldwine in the room?
No sign of Tom today.
Okay, so therefore I need a volunteer to be a general evaluator this morning. Would
David
someone...
Licata has volunteered, and I think he's coming up now. I thought I'd catch you on the microphone since you couldn't hear us hollering it from our tables.
Thank you very much, Kate. You're correct. I couldn't hear you.
Here comes our volunteer general evaluator.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters, and I wish we had some guests. It is the duty of the general evaluator to evaluate the Toastmaster of the day and the evaluators. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you for volunteering. Fellow Toastmasters, let's have a toast. Here is to retirement, and may we all live many happy and healthy years and be fulfilled in our respective retirements.
Here.
All right, with that, I would like to introduce our table topics master this morning, Kate.
Thank you so much, Mr. Toastmaster. Okay, did anyone else join Zoom since we started the meeting? I have Tracy and Gerald. All right, let me just add you to the lineup on our attendance sheet. Anybody else?
Yeah, we've got Lester as well.
Les, okay. Awesome. Okay. Eric, are you available first? I know you're sometimes off screen. Be on standby if you're not quite yet available, and I will call on someone else. So today, instead of asking a question, I'm going to give a prompt, and you will fulfill the prompt. And be sure to use the word fulfill, fulfillment, fulfilled, any variation of that for our word of the day, being fulfilled with retirement, or maybe unfulfilled. How about, oh, Eric says, I'm driving, give me a few minutes. Well, park, I'm not calling on you while you're driving. How about our first speaker today will be Nancy Berry. Nancy's coming up. And I'm going to prompt Nancy with, considering retirement, I would tell my younger self. Considering retirement, I would tell my younger self to.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I would tell my younger self to save some money. I would maybe tell my younger self that nonprofit organizations might be something I wanted to do in retirement, not for my full life, except for the fact that I find working in nonprofits fulfilling. I told you before, I worked in the Silly Putty Factory. I couldn't have lasted there very long. I worked in a couple other little places when I was out of work. None of those seemed fulfilling to me. So when I retired, I was so excited. And then I looked at my Social Security check and I was like, oh dear, we're in trouble. So I started going back to work little by little, and now I'm almost working full time again with 3 different part-time jobs, and they become more and more demanding each time I walk out the door. So fulfillment and telling our younger selves, I think I would have planned for more travel and perhaps making time for myself. What I really wanted to do in my retirement was to do crafts, do traveling. Unfortunately, I'm married to somebody who doesn't like to travel, is a homebody, and that's the way. And I don't like to travel very much by myself. So I do go visit my grandkids and my sister once in a while. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nancy. Okay, how about Les? Les, I'm going to give you a prompt and use the word fulfilled.
Les is an evaluator.
I'll do it anyways.
Okay.
I'll do it anyways.
All right, I'll take Les's advice. Here is your prompt, sir. Thank you for letting me know, Mr. Toastmaster. Les, when I think about retirement, I'm excited and or worried about ... When I think about retirement, I'm excited and or worried about...
Retirement. Well, let's look at this. Everybody wants to be fulfilled or fulfillment. Let's talk about what really makes me worry about retirement. Let's talk about number one, inflation. Inflation is something that can eat away at everything we have. We could sit there and have our goals set at like, I've got $500,000. I'm going to generate $50,000. There's a 10% inflation. That $500,000 is now worth $200,000. Wow, that's number one. Number two is you could have a downturn in the market and you could sit there and have $1 million. And the next thing you know, you got 300,000. Those are the big twos. You really have to sit there and say, how is my portfolio going to handle inflation? How's it going to handle a downturn in the market? What happens if I live to 105? Do I have enough money to make it to 105? I mean, these are really important things people need to realize. I mean, or let's do Social Security. What happens if I take Social Security at 62 and I realize that was a bad mistake and now I'm 68 and I'm going back to work? I mean, there is a lot of variables. Or I have my IRA and I'm 70 years old and I decide I want to buy that boat I've always wanted to buy, and I take it out and then I get an IRMA surcharge on my Part B and Part D of my Medicare, and it goes from $170 up to like $950 a month for a year. Oh my gosh. Retirement is a road unknown. People have no idea. So your best bet is to have a plan and know where you're going. Thank you.
Thank you, Les. How about Steve? Do you have a role today? Come on up, Steve. Steve's prompt is going to be, my favorite part about retirement is ... My favorite part about retirement is Steve Smith.
My favorite part about retirement, that's almost easy. The fact I don't have to get up in the morning. That's why I became an astronomer. I can be up all night and I'm working. I hated hearing that alarm go off at 6 o'clock in the morning. They told me you'll get used to it. I told them, I can't repeat that. I told them, no, it doesn't work. I got up for over 30 years at 6 o'clock in the morning, and no, I did not get used to it. I was very fortunate. I only lived a mile away from work, so I could get up at 6, get myself around, leave at 5 minutes to 7 and be at work at 7. Most of the time. Didn't always make it. But it was close enough that I was within, we had like a 5-minute gap. I was always within that. But that's the one thing that I really love about retirement, is that I don't have to get up. And the other thing, one of my supervisors, one of the few people I got along with in the plant, I ran into him after he retired and he said it was the best thing that ever happened to him. I heartily concur with that. I think it's the best thing that ever happened to me. And I actually got what you might call an early retirement, which I found very fulfilling, when the plant decided to close in November of 2009. And I was only, I was just shy of my 56th birthday at the time. And I'm thinking at the time, just they hit us over the head, we're closing. Well, I didn't officially retire till I was 62. But having been retired for a number of years now, I enjoy it. And I don't know how we get everything done. I don't know how I ever got it done before then. I didn't have time, but now I do. If I try. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. How about Marty? Do you have a job today? Now you do. Marty's prompt is, a fulfilling retirement for me will be, a fulfilling retirement for me will be ... Marty Johnston.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Any guests? And our youngest member, Mary Elizabeth Cavanero. who has a long way to go till she fulfills her retirement. Long way to go. A fulfilling retirement for me would be to keep healthy. That's one of my main goals. And to enjoy friends and family. Hopefully I can do that. And the way I want to ensure that I do that is definitely by having some sort of routine. Exercising. I've been blessed with the ability to exercise. I know as we age, it's harder, but I keep at it, and that really helps me. And I'm hoping it helps with my longevity. I am contributing to my 401k and other investments. And I was looking last night at our retirement age. My normal retirement age is 67. And I'm thinking 62 with all the BS or crap that's going on in the retail industry and the theft. And it's sort of disheartening to me, but I am definitely looking forward to my retirement, and it'll definitely be fulfilled for me by staying healthy and continuing to invest and looking forward to that day. Madam Topics Master, back to you. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Marty. Eric, have you pulled over to a parking lot yet?
Yes.
Are you lying? You never lie. Never mind. I was joking. That was a joke. Okay, good. He looks parked. Okay. Eric, your prompt is, and the word of the day is fulfill, fulfilling, fulfillment, fulfilled, unfulfilled. Your prompt. Since my parents' retirement, things have changed in my family's household, ... Since my parents' retirement, things have changed in my family's household.
Thank you, ma'am. Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters. After my parents' retirement, where do I begin? Well, after Dad's retirement, he was going through his total knee replacement surgeries. After shoulder surgeries, he's been still continuing working out at the Y. Changes in the household, he still does his 2 hours of cleaning the bathrooms, making sure the house looks great. Then came the grandkids, spending time with the grandkids. Then we move on to his foot surgery, Mom's retirement, and then we're all pitching in, mostly me, not my brother or my sisters, because they had their own lives to take care of. And so basically I was the chosen one to go and mow the backyard or weed whack the backyard and trying to keep my mother, her blood pressure in check, because you know me, I always tend to keep my mom's blood pressure in the higher range, because you know me, I'm a nagger. So I nag Mom every time, even early hours of the morning. And she's like, why are you bothering me? I'm trying to sleep. I'm like, okay, fine. But I should respect her because she's in her retirement. She deserves it. And so there's been many changes in the Schneider household regarding those two wonderful people that I love. And so back to you, ma'am, Toastmaster.
Bravo. Thank you, Eric. Don't call your mom unless it's an emergency in the morning. Let her sleep in. She had plenty of years where she couldn't as a nurse. Great job, everybody. We'll stop there and I will ask for a timers report first from Sylvia, please.
Okay. Boy, I didn't realize I was really challenged this morning, but everyone did qualify. And it's funny, everybody is around the same time. Nancy Fury at 1.49, Lester at 1.38, Steve Smith 1.48, Marty 1.45, and Eric at 1.46. All made time.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Sylvia. And Tracy, can we get just the table topics portion? Who qualified for our word of the day for table topics?
We can. Everybody used it multiple times with the exception of Eric. I don't think I heard him say it. Katie, you used it so many times I couldn't even keep track. But all of them, we have Nancy, Les, Steve, and Marty that do qualify.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And please enter your votes, your ballots, and I'll hand it back to Mark. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Kate, and thank you for extending table topics this morning. So fellow Toastmasters, I think you're picking up on this recurring theme. If you didn't already know it, it takes money to retire. And it's one thing if an individual's circumstances are difficult, maybe they don't have a high paying job or their expenses are high or whatever the issues are. It's another to lack discipline. It certainly takes discipline to make a commitment and stick to it no matter what, to try to put yourself in a position. I'm a bit of a psycho when it comes to this topic, admittedly. This has led to disagreements in my household. My wife would get a raise, I would be pushing for her to put in an additional 2% or whatnot into her 401k, and we'd argue a little bit. I think we're putting away too much. You know, what if we drop dead 6 months after we retire? My answer was, what if you don't? What if you live to 95? The reality is, everyone likes to say, geez, I'd love to die with $1 in my wallet. That's an easier calculation if you know what your expiration date is, but alas, most of us don't know what our expiration date is. It's better to have a little too much than not enough. And even with our daughters, we have 2 daughters. They're both registered nurses, both fortunate enough to enter their work lives in good paying jobs. And you better bet I was right on them right off the bat, pushing them to make sure they made a commitment and started to put away long term. More statistics, 55% of Americans say they're behind in saving for retirement. It's not a surprise. 32% of working age Americans have no retirement savings. And 38% of Americans are worried about outliving their savings and investments. So fellow Toastmasters, I implore you, especially our young Toastmasters, try to commit to a plan if you can. With that, we will move on to the speaking portion of the meeting. Evaluating our first speaker, Beth Banks, will be Les Robinson. Les, will you introduce Beth, please?
Yes, I will. Beth is going from Presentation Mastery, Level 4. Her time, if I'm reading this right, is 2 to 3 minutes, and it's team cutbacks / survivals. And I'd like to present Beth Banks. Thank you.
To get unmuted. Before I start my speech, I will say a little bit about retirement. I really have loved retirement. I have spent it doing more for the festival than I anticipated. My husband, soon after I retired, decided that we didn't need to share festival director job anymore. I could do it on my own. So I have been doing that. Certainly a community give back project that is challenging. I think one of my favorite stories about retirement is when my dad retired. I received, a few months later, I received a phone call from my mother. No hello, no greeting, just, he's watching me. At first, I wasn't even sure who was talking to me. And I finally, I said, Mom, yes, the least he could do is help me. If he's going to stand there and watch me, he should be helping me. So that was quite a conversation about retirement and how my father maybe didn't handle it as well in the beginning as he could have. It was quite amusing to me, maybe not so much to her. As far as my speech for today, yes, team cutbacks and survival. Since moving from Crow Park in Alcott to the Niagara County Fairgrounds, we have had many challenges. Some we anticipated, some were quite surprising to us. We did not really plan on the anger that many people felt towards us for moving out of Alcott. We also could never plan that, oh, there would be this great pandemic called COVID. As many nonprofits, we did receive some government assistance to help us survive. However, we're beyond that. And how do we survive now? I need a team to help me plan how to accomplish that. My core team will be my society president, Rebecca, and my associate directors, Kate and Vicki. But in order to be successful, we also have to communicate the plan to our main stakeholders, our society board and our team leaders. In my opinion, for the plan to work, we have to engage them before we make the plan. We have to make sure what is their opinion about planning? How do we survive? We need to work together to increase our financial viability. With the assistance of my core team, I need to prepare a schedule, a list of tasks. We have to communicate the plan and the schedule and the tasks to the stakeholders. That's imperative. I also need to delegate tasks to people who are more than capable of accomplishing what we need to do. We have some major questions to answer. How do we get more paying guests to come to the festival? What can we cut down on expenses and still have a great cultural experience for our guests? What can we afford to bring in new? Because people always want the same but different. In order to finish this project, we really need to answer those questions and fulfill our purpose, our mission of promoting Celtic culture. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters.
Thank you very much, Beth. Our second speaker this morning is Jill Roaring, and she will be evaluated by our club mom, Jackie Kenny. Jackie, will you introduce Jill, please?
I certainly will. Thank you. Jill is doing a project involving researching and presenting. This will be a 5 to 7 minute speech, and her purpose is to address her church as a whole. So all of us will become the church congregation. And so I present to you Jill Roaring, Practice for Church. Jill Roaring.
Thank you, Jackie. 35 years, over 35 women over those years, and over 3,500 quilts designed, completed, and distributed for the needs of the world and comfort of people all over the world. Bishop Lee, my fellow members and friends of St. Paul's Lutheran here, it's been quite the journey for our quilting mission. It started in 1988. A group of women gathered in Helen Horton's basement for fellowship and for a mission. And they used their talents to create quilts for Lutheran World Relief, which, as you know, sends quilts and other things out to disaster areas all over the world. I'm proud to say that Shirley Stevenson Held was in that initial group. And until about a year ago, she was still actively contributing to quilting. I wish she was here this morning so we could kind of recognize her. Shirley, thank you. Out there in absolute care. In 1988, by 1988, they had moved over to the new fellowship hall here at the church. Instead of being in the basement at the church or the basement at Helen Hortons, they were in this beautiful fellowship hall we have now. Records actually started being kept at that point. Until then, the records do say 117 quilts had been made over that 10 years. Records were starting to be kept because my mother joined the group then, and she's a record keeper. Over the next few years, they acquired 2 sewing machines. The church allowed them to dedicate 2 storage areas here in the church building. And the group started learning techniques for getting grants, asking for money, just plain and flat out asking for money, and finding donations of fabric to keep us working. Because if anything to make quilts, you need a lot of fabric. And of course, a lot of batting. We usually do not get donations for batting. That is where we need the money. Like I said, the first 10 years produced about 117 quilts. Since then, we've averaged over 135 a year. And that includes the COVID years where we really didn't produce any. We have made and given quilts to Niagara Hospice, Lutheran World Relief, as I said before, veterans organizations, primarily the VA hospital in Buffalo, Project Linus, which uses the quilts locally to go to places like Children's Hospital, and to organizations such as foster care to comfort the children that are being taken from their parents under sometimes horrible circumstances. Those children need that warmth and comfort of a quilt. Our mission in Haiti has been given quilts, although they were more coverlets. We do quilts for baptisms here at St. Paul's and numerous other needs such as benefits and local family disasters. Mom dragged me into the ministry in 2012. And dragged is probably a pretty good word for it. And I'm so happy to be such a part of such a great group of women. Be nice if a man joined us now and then, but oh well. It is such a joy to see the quilts being given for baptism, because that's one of the times we see immediate response. The other time is when I carry them into the Veterans Hospital. And the men and women see all these quilts coming in and are excited about them. Sometimes asking for one on the way in. No, we have to take them to the volunteer office first. And the one other time is for the Memorial Day ceremony here in Wilson, when they're displayed on the walls surrounding the Veterans Monument. I know that I speak for all of us with these thoughts. Such a monumental accomplishment, but we aren't done yet. So let's keep supporting us as we enjoy doing what we are doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jill. At this point, I'd like to call for a timers report. Sylvia, how did our speakers do this morning?
Our speakers did qualify, both of them. Jill at 5.37 and Beth at 2.46.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. So fellow Toastmasters, please cast your vote for either Beth or Jill. One of the decisions in retirement is, where will you live? Children sometimes grow up and they move elsewhere. Do you follow your kids somewhere else? If you live up north as we do, where it gets a little tougher as you get older to tolerate the winters, do you move south? Do you do that full time? Do you do it part time? The snowbirding thing, as we call it. I think for us, the vision always was that we would snowbird, maybe have a place in Florida, go down in the fall and come back in the spring. But grandchildren have changed that equation for us. I don't see any scenario where we could handle being away from those little kids and our own children for months at a time. So we've concluded that we think we will try to get through the winter through some strategic vacations spaced out to kind of take the edge off the brutal winters of Western New York. But in the end, as we've talked about ad nauseum, you've got to have money to do that. So if you're fortunate enough to have the savings, then at least it gives you options to do that sort of thing. At this point, I was going to rattle off more statistics, but I will call an audible at the line here and maybe engage some Toastmasters that I've noticed have yet to speak today or have spoken just a little bit. David Jones, you only had an invocation this morning. Since we have some time on our hands here, I'd ask you, tell us your retirement vision. Cover when, where, what will you be doing? David Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. My plan is that I love my job. I enjoy my job. I have a lot of freedom, and I don't foresee myself retiring until I'm forced to. I have, again, just too much freedom, and I have a lot of vacation, a lot of perks. So I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing because, like I said, I can do whatever. I feel semi-retired doing my job. They pay me to travel, but I do think about there will be a point where I won't be able to work, and then what if I live to 100 years old, just like you say, and that's my concern. So I am focused on my finances, but I know that I have time to get back to where I need to be after my divorce. My ex-wife is doing quite well, but I have some challenges. But that's my plan, is not to retire, but it's only because I love my job. If I hated my job, I assume I would want to retire.
Thank you very much, David. Mike Florio, you're only the presiding officer today. This ought to be in your wheelhouse. Mike, you've delivered a speech about retirement being just ahead for you and wrestling with the when. Mike, tell us again, when, where, what? And I'm sure the what probably involves some golf. Mike Florio.
Absolutely, it involves golf. There's no doubt about it. And the when, where, and what? Well, it's funny you call me up here because yesterday I just closed on a house in Florida. So it's going to be a vacation home. So, my family might have to come down every once in a while and visit me. Okay. There'll be plenty of room. Punta Gorda, Florida. So there's nice cheap flights from Niagara Falls down to right to Punta Gorda. And it's just a short drive. So I closed on that yesterday. Yeah. Thank you very much. We're all very excited about it. And I'm serious when I say family and friends are welcome. There you go. Exactly. That's what I mean. So I can't be there all the time. So because we're never going to get rid of our house up in Lockport. We love it here still. And I love the summers here. I play golf all summer long with my buddies. I'm sure I'll find some friends down there to play golf with. But I don't think I'll ever retire, honestly. I mean, I have worked. I've been thinking about it. I think about it, like you said, I think about it a little too much. And then I come to the conclusion that, I don't care. Whenever it happens, it happens. When I retire, I retire. It's going to happen. And I mean, I remember having a job when I was a kid. I mean, I feel like up to this point, I've worked to get to where I'm at, right? I mean, I was a paper boy collecting money, and now I'm a landlord collecting money. So I started out really young doing that. And I'm kind of still at my self-actualization, right? Where I'm kind of getting to where I'm just in my groove now. So I don't want to retire. And if I don't, that's fine. And I started this business of Florio Properties with my sons, and I love doing that. So I'm learning all these new skills all the time, even though I'm 60. And I figured I'm just going to keep going as long as they want me to hang around and have fun with my sons. Now, I might get rid of the job that I have now, but a lot like Dave too. I mean, it's been a great ride. They pay me to travel. They pay me to go golfing. I'm going to have lunch with somebody today. I mean, I'm not bragging, but it's not a bad gig. And now since COVID, I'm working from home. So it's all good. And I want to share it with people, and I want to share it with my family and my friends. And, you know, I think that's what it's all about. I remember when I was a kid and my parents split up when I was 15, and, you know, I knew what it was like to be poor. You know, they turned off my gas and electric, I remember, and the guy apologized to me, and that was traumatic to me. And I just never wanted to be poor after that, you know? So I worked my ass off, and I learned as much as I could about business and investing. And now I get the fruits of that labor. And again, I mean, I'm serious, you know, you guys are all my friends, and it's kind of warm down there. I bought this place, and I've never been there yet. So I don't know what it looks like. And a friend of mine who was down there, who lives in the same community, she called me up and said, "Hey, Mike, this is for sale. If you want it, you better close on it now. You better," because they just go like that. Doesn't matter what the interest rate is anymore. Doesn't matter. People want to live down there. So I, over coffee, talked about it. And by the end of the day, I bought that house. And now it's time to go see what it looks like. So I won't be here in December, probably. Anyway, I took too much time. It's been a joy. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you very much, Mike, and congratulations on your new home. At this point, we will move on to the evaluation portion of the meeting. Our first evaluator will be Les Robinson. Les.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm evaluating Beth Bars, which is a bad thing, excuse me. What's very funny is that the evaluation is just as long as the speech. So I'm ready to get started. We get the timer going. Beth, you had a great speech. I loved it. I think another thing was your facial expressions could give I could see you going from Kroll Park up the road. I could see your brain almost going, why are we doing this? I know why we're doing this. So you projected the whole picture, which your face did that. And that's very good in a speech. That's number one. That's what I like. Number two is your tone and your pace. Your tone and pace was extremely well. You went dun, 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 dun. And then when you got excited, it went up. You know the topic. I mean, I've been to the Celtic. Everybody's been to the Celtic. It's a great event. You know it inside and out. My one thing I would say on that is when you were doing your gesturing, it was kind of like dun, 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 dun. And what you need to do, and when I'm set up down in the basement, it's a lot different, but you come in and you may want to like use your gestures like here or like here. And I actually practiced up here downstairs when I do mine. I have a little setup for when I deal with clients. I make sure that I'm not like doing this with my gesturing, which is kind of funny, but yours were disappeared and you could see like your fingers pop up. And that was That was something you have to really work at. And as I say, I'm not centered, but now I am. And the way your video was, mine shoots up to the ceiling. You had yours perfectly straight. It was great questions. It was a very interesting speech, but I could feel the passion, the fulfillment, everything that you were debating came across in that speech. And I think that the most pinnacle point of the speech was the transfer from Crawl up to Niagara County. And I think you overall, on a win-win, got everything put together, and it was a great speech. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Les. And our second evaluator this morning is Jackie Kenny. Jackie.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I'm pleased to be evaluating Jill, and I think she did an excellent job this morning fulfilling the actual objectives of the project. She was very careful to do what needed to be done, not give us a report, but give us a speech that was informational. In her case, she had the choice to be humorous or informational or any style that she chose. As a church lady myself, I can appreciate all the sentiment that went into this speech and the pride of the history of this group quilting and the things that they do and the reasons that they do them. My family received one of those quilts at Niagara Hospice, so I have a connection. So the emotional content was very well done and brought us more information about the speech than just the facts and figures that you reported. Maybe too many long connecting sentences. You have a tendency to and keep on going. If you stop, pause, and start a new sentence, I think it would go a little better. Finish that thought and then move on to the next. Maybe more vocal variety would be a good thing, but I enjoyed your gestures this morning. I thought they were very appropriate for a speech of this type. You kept them quiet and not broad and flinging yourself all over the place. And that works for this particular speech. You're talking to a church congregation, and I felt like I was part of that church congregation. So thank you for a very nice speech today. Appreciate it. Jill.
Thank you very much, Jackie. At this point, I would call for our final timers report. Sylvia, how did our evaluators do?
Our evaluators did very well. Jackie at 2.14 and Les at 2.13. And I just want to make a little comment about retirement. Today I took off of work. My husband is off, and we are going to see our financial advisor because he was thinking a year from now of retiring. But honestly, another hiccup was thrown at us, and you have to think about, and we didn't talk about this a lot. Everybody was talking about the good, happy things of retiring. I have a family member right now is in rehab. She had pneumonia. She's 86 years old. And she's now at Shulkoff in Niagara Falls for hopefully a short term, but it doesn't look like it's going to be a short term. And I'm helping her son kind of settle her assets and estates, income, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, whatever you want to call it, so the state doesn't take all her things. So my question to my financial advisor is, what do I do now to protect our assets if we have to go into long-term care? And so my two boys don't have to go through this bullshit, sorry, but what it is, dealing with the state of New York. And, you know, you work your whole life, as you were saying, and I have 33 years going on 34, and my husband 36 years. And what do we do to protect ourselves so the state don't take our house and our other assets? So that's my big question today. It's not the happy note of, can I retire tomorrow? Because I know financially we can. It's now what we do for the long term. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. Please cast your vote for Les or Jackie. And you're right, Sylvia, there's certainly many aspects to this. Some are pleasant, some are decidedly unpleasant. And along those lines, another thing I would share, fellow Toastmasters, and I would implore you to follow this advice, no matter how much or how little you have a will in place. Because my father-in-law passed away thinking he didn't have much of anything to worry about, and not having a will really made life difficult on those of us left behind to try to settle up affairs. Mike alluded to the fact that his gig really isn't that bad, and I feel pretty similarly. My wife hates her job. I shared that. She makes no bones about it. And she asked me once, if you don't hate your job, why do you look forward to retirement so much? And my answer was, well, all things being equal, I'd rather be off. And I don't think I will have any trouble finding things to occupy myself. And also, like Mike, golf will be a big part of that. And maybe I will even improve at the game. And again, once again, rather than rattle off some boring retirement statistics, I'll call for a couple other people. Margot, you've been in rather stealth this morning. Margot, do you anticipate, obviously you're an entrepreneur, but do you ever see yourself retiring? And if so, when, where, and what will that look like?
So I turned 65 this year, for those who don't know it. Yes, I am old. My husband's doctor asked him, because he's only 6 weeks older than when he plans to retire, and he informed the doctor he's going till 75. I'm not sure how our sons will feel about that on the farm, however. But see, I have this neat little thing called a liquor license. And liquor licenses renew every 3 years. So I'm figuring about February 2025, when I get that little piece of paper saying, do I want to renew for May 2025, I can make a decision. And there are days that I'd love to retire today, and there are days that, whenever. So we'll see. I'm going to wait till February 2025. My father told me when he retired, and he's now 91, that you should really think about what are you retiring to. In my case, taking those murder mystery dinners and making them into packets, finishing up a couple other things that are going on around here. All the family pictures have been dumped on me because I'm the family historian and I have the room in the house. So scanning pictures to give everybody a thumb drive. Got lots of projects to do. Still got Lions, still have Toastmasters. I was just recently appointed to my temple board. I got a phone call, surprise, you've been appointed. So people keep wanting me to do things. So we'll see what happens. So February 2025, I'll figure out what I'm going to do. But thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Margot. Let's pick one more, shall we? Nancy Rose, let's get you back up to the lectern, please. Nancy, same question for you. To share what your retirement will look like, when, where, and what.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I'm a dreamer, so I have a huge wish list. And like during the years where I had jobs not work out because I chose to raise my children part-time, I constantly changed my jobs. But I have to say, this job that I'm in now, it's half entrepreneur, half distributor, I like, and I don't have to leave it. It's the first time I've ever said that, ever. So I'm excited. I figure I have about 10 years before I retire. And my wish list is huge when I do. I want a house in the South. I can't wait to watch my grandchildren if I'm blessed with them. I can't wait to go fishing with my husband every day. I mean, every day, rain, snow, or whatever. And I just want to spend time with my family and friends. I want to make dinners. I want to do so much, but I guess there's no buts. I'm going to do it. I will do it. And I'm going to have a blast. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Nancy. At this point, I would like to turn control of the meeting over to our general evaluator, David Licata. David, you have the con, and I am empowering you to call for reports. David Licata.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. So a quick story about retirement. I owned my own business. I sold it to what I considered a friendly competitor. I stayed with him about 33 months, and then I got on my white steed and rode into the sunset. And being totally foolish, I didn't believe that there was such a thing as age discrimination. I said, oh, hell, I'll have a new job in sales in about 10 minutes. Well, it never materialized because every time I interviewed with somebody young enough to be my offspring. And even though I'm not their father, they don't want their father in the building. They don't want anybody in the building even reminds them of their father. So after bouncing here and bouncing there, and I had 3 part-time jobs, which was, I found that I didn't mind that at all. And one I still have. I'm still at the winery at Margin Manor. But Nettie, my wife, said, you're 62, take your Social Security, the hell with it. And I said, okay. I just want to share this fun story, though. When I worked at Jiffy Mart, there was a gentleman that would parade in at about 5:05 from the administration building at Harrison Radiator's main plant directly across the street. This gentleman was from Central Casting. If you wanted to pick an executive and you wanted an actor to play that role to a T, this whip thin, perfectly groomed, just enough scowl to make his underlings perform well, would come in every day. And then we were treated sometimes because his wife would meet him there. And she was from Central Casting as well. She was very attractive. And as a young man, that's the first time I said, mature ladies, that could work, yeah. But she was remarkable and she was funny. Well, Harrison makes you retire. You don't get a choice. So this gentleman retires. So 2 weeks later, the lady's back in the store. I said, how's it going? She looks at me, she goes, well, my husband's retired now. I said, yes, I understand that. We haven't seen him come in. She says, do you know that I don't even know how to make orange juice? Because that's all he was doing. He was micromanaging her. I'm dying to know how that turned out. That was a great story. I'm always on patrol. Somewhere somebody needs an entertainer, somebody needs to have me come in and cheer them up. That's part of my retirement plans. I have I have just enough at the winery to keep me out of trouble. I enjoy working at the satellite store in Niagara Falls because I can kid people from all over the world. And I'm a docent. I'm a Flight of 5 ambassador. So when people come to the Flight of 5 locks, I can tell them my version of how this happened. And it's just, if I can't have fun, I stay home, but you know that better than anybody. Okay, now, on Les's evaluation, he laid down the first slice of his sandwich, and he was very plain in telling the speaker what he liked about the speech. and that's a dynamite foundation. He had plenty of meat in the middle of the sandwich, which the reason we're going to celebrate our 40th anniversary. We've always been very clever about this in this club. With my long history as a Toastmaster and going to district meetings, they've always stressed, the clubs in Rochester and Syracuse and this club and that club. It always said, well, you got to be gentle in evaluations. You got to be gentle in evaluations. And I was always puzzled, like, what, you don't know that? No, because we've always been very good at it. And Les is falling right in line with the rest of us, where you deliver advice and how you want to see this done the next time, or how it can be improved. And Les is certainly in line with that. And Les, I want to salute you today. You had quite the gestures. You were almost in the center of the shot today. We think that you should put some wallpaper on the ceiling. It might make your Zoom experience a little bit better. But Les, I enjoyed your evaluation.
Thank you.
Now, here's what we got to say about Jackie. Her first slice was enabled by the fact, and it made it more interesting for the speaker and the Toastmasters in the audience, but it was enabled by the fact that there was a strong identification between the two church ladies. And that worked. And that's something that she underlined for the sake of Jill. So that was nice. She stressed how she identified with the speaker, and she had great advice for the speaker. And she delivered, once again, she delivered that advice with Jackie gloves. I didn't want to say kid gloves, so we'll call it Jackie gloves. So she was sure to thank the speaker, and that's not a bad idea either. And we do that about a third of the time. But that's a nice aspect of the evaluations we give here at AM Lockport. So, Jackie, I'm sure that Jill is ready to go with your advice. She can't wait to get at it. Now, what a provocative man, Mark Campos, our evaluator of the day, forcing me into my lame Howard Cosell voice. Excellent theme. A great explanation of the theme. When Mark stirs us up, he engages us. He gets us thinking about his message. He heats us up, and he stays cool. And by that, I have to show off now and then and say just how long it's been since I've been in college, because I'm sharing that Marshall McLuhan stuff from the 70s. He says a few words, it hits us, and then we start thinking about it, and we start producing heat. And that's what I mean. And that's the key to being a good Toastmaster of the day or a leader in another situation. So when you have to speak, you don't have to be that hot. You don't have to pound the lectern, but say some things that make the other people's minds get in gear and they get off the heat. Now, we was quick to enlist additional speakers, so we all got our meetings worth today. And sadly, I'm not as clever as a lot of us. I've always been so damn lucky. So if a door closes for me, and I'm not making this up, if something slams shut for me, I don't think I've gone 4 days that another door doesn't open. So that's the way I pretty much approached my retirement. Gratefully, I'm married to Sergeant Wadowski, who is taking close eyes on these things. And I think between her and Phil Russell, I might just make it. And I want to go past that 79 point, whatever it is, age he gave us. But it was an outstanding meeting. And now I got a call on the Wagmaster, but I want her to, excuse me, I'm gonna put the Wagmaster last, because I want the word of the day, everybody for a chance to get a word of the day in. So please welcome our Quizmaster, And I wish I had an agenda up here. Oh, Dr. Jerry, how are you?
Doing great, Dave. Thank you so much.
And you need plenty of advice how to goof off. I'm your guy.
I may be soliciting you for that advice to fulfill my mission in retirement. Items for questions today. To test your listening skills, what factory did Nancy Ferry work in as a younger person? Making what?
The answer from the group is silly putty.
How could we not remember that? That's pretty cool. Les Robinson says the best thing for retirement is to what?
Plan ahead.
Have a plan. Yes.
So
Good job.
the answer was plan ahead.
Yes. Steve Smith's favorite part of retirement is to not to do what?
Get up early.
Get up early.
Except on Thursday.
Except for Thursday.
He
Thank you.
does
I
not
didn't think
does not miss his alarm clock at all.
that. That's awesome. What is the mission of the Celtic Festival or Society, according to Beth?
Just to remind everybody that Celts have more fun than anybody, I guess. No? To keep in touch with your roots. And thanks to Ancestry.com, I haven't been to the Celtic Festival yet, but seeing how I qualify as the Grand Marshal, I should get there, finding out how Celtic I am.
Sounds like a pitch to me. Promote Celtic culture, she said.
Okay, it's
pretty close.
Celtic culture.
In Jill's quilting group, how many quilts do they average a year?
134
coming from Mike Florio.
The answer is 134. Thank you very much, Len. Thank you.
And that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
All right. Did I see the Wagmaster go somewhere? Oh, Tracy. Hi, Tracy. So starting with the grammar and the Oz, but say the word for the last. Go ahead. Thank you very much, Tracy.
I will. Thank you, Mr.
General
Evaluator. So I really didn't hear a lot of poor grammar. The only thing I heard was Sylvia said, the state don't take. That was the only misuse of the English language. I heard some pregnant pauses from Jill, Mike Florio, and Steve. So we really did very well. And I didn't hear a lot of so's except for from myself. As far as the Oz, we're doing really good on the Oz. I really didn't hear those either. The word of the day, we did fantastic. The beginning of the meeting kind of slowed down at the end of the meeting. I heard Jackie Kenny, Les Robinson, Jill, Beth Banks. The beginning of the meeting, I heard Dr. Stevens and Mark Campos. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you very much. And now you can go on the rest of the day and wag some more. I think it's time to introduce our presiding officer so we can bring this meeting to a close. I'd like to remind Mike Florio that now he has his house in Florida. He should have a live-in cleaner and cook. Net he'll clean, I'll cook.
Come on. Come on down. Could always use a good chef. And we're definitely lucky to have you. That's for sure. No doubt about it. So anyway, before we go any further, there are still a couple of people I would like to hear from out of the audience about retirement. And one of them, does a lot of work for us already. So Len, you got to come up here and tell us, when, where, how, why, if. Come on up and let us know.
Thank you, Mr. Officer of the Day, fellow Toastmasters. Yes, I do think about retirement quite a bit. How can you not? I mean, work is still work as much as you love your job. So my priorities in retirement are, number one, maintain good health. If you have your health, you have everything. So take care of those small issues before they become big issues. Stretch daily, do some aerobic exercise, some weights, keep your balance, do everything you can to not be a hindrance to yourself, to not be going to doctor's appointments constantly. Number two, travel is going to be essential. My girlfriend and I, between us, will have relatives in Western New York, Florida, Phoenix, Lincoln, Nebraska, Chicago, Boston. So just visiting family on a regular basis is going to involve a fair amount of travel. That doesn't even include vacations to exotic destinations. As far as work goes, I don't know that I'll ever fully retire. I'm trying to shift my business from a drop everything and respond to my emergency type of mode to more project-based things where you have a set of requirements, a deadline, and periodic update meetings, but you're kind of working on your own time and most importantly, remotely as you need to. And of course, hobbies. I've never had a shortage of hobbies between my Lions Club, the All-Star football game, fixing things, making things, everything. I'm the historian in my family because apparently nobody else cared enough to do it. So I need to round out all that research as well. So it's not going to be a set date for me. I'm going to ease into it, work fewer hours, travel a lot, enjoy my hobbies and family. Back to you, Mr. Presiding Officer.
Thanks, Len. We had to put you on the spot. You know, I want to hear from one more person. I'm sorry, Mark, if I'm taking over a little bit, but Jackie, you're retired. I know you've already spoke already, but I'm sure you have some thoughts on retirement. Jackie Kenny, come on up.
Do it as soon as possible. Absolutely. I took early retirement because I could. And it wasn't that I hated my job. I actually loved my job. I got to help people on a regular basis. It was terrific. But when I developed breast cancer and dealt with that in the workplace, which was not supportive and didn't really help me at all in dealing with it. So when I turned 55, I was out the door and I stayed retired for a short time. And then I kind of backed into a part-time job and I've been there ever since because I like what I'm doing. And the same thing happened with Kevin. He saw how much fun I was having, so he decided to retire as well and start collecting your Social Security as soon as you can. He started as soon as he could, and he died when he was 65. So the government would have gotten to keep all of his Social Security money if he hadn't retired. You can do so much good with your wealth of knowledge and experience out there in the world. There's no shortage of ways to spend your time and your energy. So absolutely enjoy retirement.
Thanks, Jackie. See that? Good advice. Well, we're going to conclude the meeting, but before we do that, we've got a few people that we are going to present some prizes to for speaking today. Our best table topics, Nancy Ferry. And I think Nancy left. So there you go. Here's your best evaluator. Jackie, you're not retired yet, so come on up and receive your best evaluator award. Congratulations. Nice job. Thank you very much. And our best speaker of the day goes to our quilt master, Jill Roaring. Wonderful speech today, Jill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Come on up.
And I just want to say, as a connection to the club here. Helen Horton's basement that I talked about is now Phil Russell's basement. Oh, my theme for 2 weeks from now, I do not have one yet. It might be something like, oh, I have to draw a ticket. Somebody needs to get them ready.
Anyway, our speakers for in the next 2 weeks will be David Licata. Speaker, get ready. Start preparing.
You
2
can come
weeks.
next week if you want, but.
There might not be anybody here. Tracy and Joe, those are our 3 speakers. What do we have going on? Thanks, Mark, for a great
5 tickets.
theme. We had a good time. Good job, as
Okay.
always.
The winner's gonna get $3.
And the winner is.
Better be Steve, right? He's looking at me with this.
It says Steve
Doing
right
it
on that. It
else.
says Steve right on that one.
911.
9/11. Dave. All right. And with that, I believe we're going to bring this meeting to a close. Have a great week, everyone.